Alright everyone, we start anew with the first video of the new year. Of course, we will do a live stream later, I believe, schedule permitting. There's a lot of backup to talk about, of course. Ratzinger dying, Mr. Medicare's update, actually, among other things. But first, I think we need to talk about the New York City machete attack that happened on New Year's Eve. An Islamic terrorist decided to take a machete and go, ape on some people there, injuring a number of police officers. Now, they managed to detain him, so his wish for martyrdom has been denied. Wonder if that'll cause him to challenge his spirituality. It's like if you say, according to the interpretation the Taliban gave me, my God wants me to die in glorious battle against these motherfuckers, so that's what I'm going to do, and then you don't die. Is that because you weren't faithful enough? I'm not even 100% sure about the Taliban's specific interpretation of certain elements of Islam, but that is what this is. This is a terrorist attack. It's clearly one. The individual who, Trevor Bickford is the one that was detained, attacking people with a machete. Several officers injured. Unfortunately, I think they've all been released, though. They managed to tackle him fairly quickly, which is great because if he had penetrated the police lines and gotten into a larger crowd and just starts flailing away with a machete, at some point it's conceivable that people would have stampeded, and of course when you've got tens of thousands of people gathered in an area that's that's rather crowded already, you can end up with people dying, literally trampling each other. This happens. It often is tied with religion, by the way. It happens during pilgrimages and things like that around the world on a regular basis, unfortunately. I would like to talk about the culpability of certain elements of society in promulgating this sort of thing, because while the Biden admin and the legacy media and apparently elements of tech, bureaus, etc., are so worried about right-wing extremism, which, by the way, this will officially be classed as according to the ADL and similar groups, they lump in any sort of retro tradcon religious interpretations, even if they're technically modernist interpretations and revisionisms of actual religion. They lump it in as right-wing because of its traditionalistic slant. This won't be classed as a terrorist attack derived from religion directly. It'll be classed as a far-right attack, bringing about the insinuation that those injuries didn't have anything to do with warped religious interpretation. No, they had specifically to do with someone wearing a MAGA hat and waving the Gadsden flag. Remember that there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. I pointed this out before. The culpability is this. The FBI, the DOJ at large, the politicians, etc., keep bringing up the specter of the evil, ghoulish alt-righter, things like that. So the idea is that the average terrorism in the United States, it doesn't involve anyone who's been radicalized by a foreign element, unless it's Russia, of course, then it's plausible. No, it involves somebody who was born in a dirt-floored cabin, wearing suspenders and nothing else, who has an illiterate mama and a coal miner dada, and they get bitter at the system, undeservingly, because the system actually imparts them privilege because of the color of their skin, and so they put on the Klan hood. They got the swastika tattoo, things like that. That's the interpretation. But it's not the reality. We also find over and over and over again that intel agencies like the FBI, the CIA, etc., had these people on the radar for a reasonable period of time. Right now, we're not even getting an update from the legacy media as to whether he watched extremist material. The government's on it. Just trust them, you dumb fucks. I'm sure that they'll dig up the goodies. The dude was carrying a diary at the time of the attack, this has already been confirmed, in which he writes about wanting to join the Taliban and die a martyr. It's case closed. There is no other possible impetus for why this attack occurred. I guess we're lucky that he didn't attain one of those scary assault weapons, right? Because then all hell would have broken loose. And by the way, if that had happened, this would actually be on page 1. Now, it would be big news. Well, another gun violence attack ringing in the new year. This is Evil Drumpf's America. That would be their code. But because he used a machete, and thankfully didn't kill anyone, of course they're not so interested in it after all. Now, some people are taking up the wrong tack on this. Instead of talking about the culpability of intel agencies, and the cat's gone crazy, basically it's a cat NASCAR at the moment, I guess, this morning. Instead of talking about the culpability of intel, for dropping the ball here. Again, I'm sure that there was intel on this dude. He didn't just magically decide that he wanted to martyr himself for his god. he was exposed to other material or other people. Maybe he's part of a terrorist cell for all we know. Instead of fixating on that, some people that otherwise do good commentary, they're talking about the border right now. This dude was from Maine, to be clear. He's Trevor Bickford, not an ethnic name or something. He comes from a small town in Maine. He was radicalized in part because the U.S. government has actually not done anything to stop radicalization. You'll remember, technically this ties into like the Twitter files and stuff. Well, disinformation is going to make people violent. Anti-U.S. disinformation, propaganda in general, radicalized literature and stuff like that. It's going to make someone crazy and they're going to haul off and they're going to attack people. But they never fixate on certain elements of actual disinformation or actual extremism. That's ignored. They were too busy to, think about it. The FBI agents that could have been looking into something like this potentially happening could have been looking into actual extremism. Hey, there's this Facebook page here, and they post mainly shaheeds, and that's fine, but then all of a sudden they started posting ISIS literature links and stuff. Maybe we ought to look into this a little bit and keep an eye on the situation. This is what happened with the Boston Marathon bombing. The FBI of the United States had intel 2 years prior from Chechen authorities, but they're in Russia, so I guess they were ignored, that the Tsarnaevs had been radicalized. The older brother, who's dead, had been posting Osama stuff on Facebook on a repeat basis for a number of months, openly, publicly. They couldn't have not gotten a tip-off from somebody on that page that was paying attention to what was going on. They knew that there was radicalization, and they did nothing. It's almost like they enjoyed the fact that the attack happened because the politicians told them, hey, good terrorist attack is a really great way to pass more fucking rules. So they allow it to happen or something like that. This almost goes beyond the realm of a conspiracy theory style content and into the realm of, it does seem to be a repeat thing. It seems to be becoming a habit that this is exactly what happens. So it's sad, New Year's Eve, and you're in a leftoid place like New York City. They're going to be playing like John Lennon and stuff, and your first thought is, let's carve up some cops. I guarantee that his real goal was to get past the police line, though. Probably he had the machete concealed, attempted to get through them, and then when he realized he was going to get caught, he just decided to take his chances and flail away. Probably intended to mill into the crowd and then start a stampede. Well, then there'd be some deaths involved. It wouldn't be cops, the leftoids will pretend that they love the cops, thin blue line and shit like that. No, it'd be a bunch of civilians, actually. And it would have been hard for them to stop him, although, some brave person might have tackled him, I suppose. Because in New York City, everyone's disarmed. Not many good guys with a gun around there unless you count the NYPD, and of course, if you're the Biden admin member, you don't like cops, unless it's the D.C. Capitol Police. The ones that guard your ass on a day-to-day basis, those are the good cops. All of the other ones, they're bastards, and they should be defunded, right? We got over that rigmarole a while ago, and they checked polling on the situation. Now, there is culpability because the government's not focusing on actual extremism. They're focused on memes. They're focusing on Pepe the goddamn frog, so they're taking resources that should be looking into things like this that are actual extremism. It's like everything is extremism except for actual extremism, and we give that a pass. That's okay. That seems to be the way the government's working. Don't get distracted, though, by thinking about this in the context of our porous border. That's a huge problem, especially related to fentanyl and things like that. But this dude is from Maine. So don't bother fixing it. Don't take the tinsel. Don't get distracted by the bullshit side story that they're trying to inject. By the way, I do see the psyop going on currently. I suspect that over the coming days they will update on the story, but they will do it quietly. Unless there's something convenient for them to put there like, oh, well, yeah, he had the Taliban martyrdom diary. And he was watching shaheeds all day, and, they found 5 prayer rugs in his room and a poster of Osama bin Laden and all that shit. But at the same time, at one point, 2 years ago, he made a post on 4chan where he chuckled about MAGA, or so clearly that was the reason that he went crazy. He was trying to kill ethnic minorities or something like that. He got radicalized by the GOP's cop hating, and he decided to randomly slash up a bunch of NYPD officers. You watch, if there's anything, any logical stretch that they can make, because everyone has a digital footprint now, something they were warned not to have as little as 10, 15 years ago. Don't put your real name on Facebook, kids. Yeah, pedophiles will get you. Now it's, you have to give your ID and your social security number, your phone number, take 5 iris scans and shit like that. They will go with it if they are given the ability to do so, just to be clear. That's about all. Peace out.